It's the middle of the week and time for Wednesday Reading. Our Wednesday Reading learning goal is to analyze a complex set of ideas or sequence of events and explain how those specific individuals, ideas, or events interact and develop over the course of that particular text, whether that be fiction or nonfiction. At the end of today's lesson, you'll be asked to rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 4, a 4 being that you're able to bring together the ideas in terms of how they relate. This happens through connections made between ideas, people, or events. The conclusions you draw are logical and incorporate the ideas presented by the author. And finally, there is a meaning made in the sense that you apply the material to your own life. If you're at a 3, which is kind of where we want everyone to be by the end of these Wednesday readings, it means you're able to bring together ideas in terms of how they relate, and this happens through those connections made between ideas, people, or events, and the conclusions you draw are logical and incorporate the ideas presented by the author, but you might not be able to apply them to your own life. If you're at a 2, that means you're able to bring together the ideas in terms of how they relate, and this happens through those connections between ideas, people, and events, but you struggle to draw effective conclusions about the material. And if you're at a 1, that means that you can recognize the content in the material, but you struggle to see any relationships or draw any connections or draw any conclusions about them. So as you read today and complete this assignment, consider where you're at in your ability to accomplish that learning goal. All right, Wednesday reading, let's get to it. Today's reading is titled Men of Magnitude, which is really just an excerpt from the play Master Harold and the Boys. One of our main goals is to make inferences, which we'll do and we'll talk about. But I don't want you to focus on that in this sense. I don't want you to get so wrapped up in concerning yourself with your ability to make inferences that you miss the key part about reading fiction. And that key point is to question everything. When you read, always ask yourself if what you're reading is true. The author highlights the differences in perceptions of the world and what makes a magnitudinous man here. And he does so through a dialogue between Hallie, Master Harold, and Sam and Willie, who are kind of both a part of this conversation as well. Sam and Willie are Hallie's servants, but really they're Hallie's parents' servants. He's 17. The question is, how does each person, mostly Sam and Hallie, they're the ones, Sam kind of takes over the conversation from Willie, who kind of just falls away from the scene a little bit. How does each person's stature or place in the world shape who each one thinks is magnitudinous? Now, I gave you a definition of magnitude earlier in this lesson, and I kind of tried to show you some magnitudinous images. I did so through like landscape, like the Grand Canyon, big lakes, Smoky Mountains, things like that, like great extent, great size, right? And so that's kind of what magnitude is. Whose important, right? Would be another phrase that we could consider as a meaning for magnitude. The first step to understanding an article and or understanding this a work of fiction in this case, and deciphering the author's main point is to analyze the title. To properly do this, I need you to make a prediction based on what you already know. Again, the title is Master Harold and the Boys. What prediction can you make about what we're going to see here? The next step to really understanding an author's argument is understanding the language that they use in the story. This is where we get our vocabulary lists. Here is a list of words that you will see in the story. So next we need to talk about structure. This is a conversation, a dialogue, sort of a back and forth, right? Between two vastly different life experiences. Sam is old and he's black. Hallie is 17 and he's white. You need to frame everything through the lens of life experience. Everything that we read, you need to remember how important it is, sort of their stature in life and where they come from. That's going to shape the entire conversation. So, one, pay close attention to the emotional response versus the measured and the calm and logical response. One of the two acts very much on emotion. The other one is sort of thoughtful and measured and calm. You're going to have to decipher which is which. Number two, who constitutes magnitude? And so before we get too far into this, before you read the whole thing, I want you to understand that you're going to have to make a list at the end of everyone, like who each character said is a man of magnitude. They each list something like 8 or so. So just kind of maybe on a sheet of paper or something, or in your phone, just make a note, keep track of who each person says is a man of magnitude. So I'll ask you that after you've had a chance to read. So just something to keep in mind. You'll want to pay attention to historical background. And this takes place during apartheid, South Africa. And let's dive into a short video about that now.
Apartheid in South Africa crumbled after Nelson Mandela walked to freedom. But black people suffered decades of government-backed injustice before it did. Apartheid really began in 1948, but separating black Africans from the white minority had long been a policy aim. Laws made white people officially superior, and the large black majority faced discrimination in every aspect of their lives. Living, doing business, or owning land in white areas was banned. There were separate public facilities, transport, and schools. Interracial marriage was banned. Many had no right to citizenship and were regarded as aliens in major cities. Instead, they were made citizens of Bantustans, homelands scattered throughout South Africa. But resistance grew. In 1960, a huge peaceful protest against past laws ended in a massacre at Sharpeville. 69 people were killed. The deaths galvanized opposition, radicalizing liberation movements like the ANC.
There are many people who feel that it is useless and futile for us to continue talking peace and non-violence.
Open conflict erupted in the 1980s, with anti-apartheid activists frequently shot at, beaten, or arrested. Mass protests were firmly put down. But little by little, the apartheid establishment crumbled. After gradual reform, Nelson Mandela, imprisoned since not long after Sharpeville, was set free in 1990. 4 years later, he was elected as South Africa's first black president. Apartheid had ended.
All right, so go ahead and read the excerpt now. It is posted in a link at the right. Now that you have read the article and made a list of each of men of magnitude, is there anyone on those lists that you didn't know? And if you don't know who some of those people are who were listed, go to Google and do a little search on that person. Because what I want to know is what sort of themes come out about who the people are who were chosen. What kind of people are magnitudinous? given each person's perspective of the world. What kind of people does Sam pick? And what kind of people does Hallie pick? Let's take a specific look at one section here. We'll pick it up with Sam, where he says, Napoleon regarded all people as equal before the law and wanted them to have equal opportunities for advancement. All vestiges of the feudal system with its oppression of the poor were abolished. Vestiges, feudal system, and abolished. I'm all right on oppression. I'm thinking he swept away, abolished, the last remains vestiges of the bald old days feudal system. Ha! There's the social reformer we're waiting for. He sounds like a man of some magnitude. Hallie said, I'm not sure about that. It's a damn good title for a book, though. A man of magnitude. He sounds pretty big to me, Hallie. Don't confuse historical significance with greatness. But maybe I'm being a bit prejudiced. Have a look in there, and you'll see 2 chapters long. And hell, has he only got dates? Sam, all of which you've got to remember. This campaign and that campaign, and then because of all the fighting, the next thing we've got to get peace treaties all over the place, and that's the end of the story. Battle of Waterloo, which he loses, wasn't worth it. No, I don't know about him as a man of magnitude. Then who would you say was? To answer that, we need a definition of greatness, and I suppose that would be somebody who benefited all of mankind. Right, but like who? Charles Darwin. Remember him? The big book from the library, The Origin of the Species? Him? Well, yes, for his theory of evolution. You didn't finish it. I ran out of time. I didn't finish it because my 2 weeks was up, but I'm going to take it out now again after I've digested what I read. It's safe. I've hidden it away in the theology section. Nobody ever goes there. And anyway, who are you talking to? Who are you to talk? You hardly even looked at it. So now that we've taken a look at this sort of section, this excerpt, Sam makes the argument that Napoleon Bonaparte was one, because he was looking for opportunities for all, regarded all people as equal, that sort of thing. And Hallie said, survival of the fittest, every man for himself. Did you kind of get that? Would you say that was a theme where Sam's people sort of cared for everyone, gave opportunities to all, regarded all people as equal, where Hallie was like individualism, right? Every man for himself, survival of the fittest, the best of the best. How does that reflect each of their life experiences? All right, now we're on to recording ourselves reading out loud. I want you to go and choose a part that you found particularly interesting, particularly intriguing, and read out loud for 1 minute, sort of the dialogue, the back and forth. And tell me, after you've read for 1 minute, where you see the societal power differential between Hallie, a white man, and Sam, a black man, come through in the choices that they chose for men of magnitude. How does their men of magnitude show the power struggle and where they stand about how society is? And now that you have answered all of your questions for today's lesson, let's take a look at our learning scale. Where, according to the scale, would you rate your ability to accomplish the learning goal listed at the top there? Once you give me a number, please explain why you rated yourself as you did. Doing so is your last assignment for this lesson. You have earned your unit. Thank you.